talk in this particular class on the question, what are the grounds for divorce? Are there legal grounds for divorce that the Bible gives? Are those grounds universal? Are they for all dispensations? Are they grounds for the Old Testament, not for the New Testament? What did the Bible say are the grounds for divorce? For many years, many people taught that the only grounds for a divorce and the only grounds on which a saint or anyone can get a divorce is if the other person committed adultery. And so many people who wanted to get out of their marriages, shamefully to say, were hoping that they can catch their spouse in adultery and that would free them from the horrible marriage. But we have researched that, and in researching that, we need to take a closer look at what are the biblical grounds for divorce and why do we say that it is adultery? And is that really what the Bible teaches? That's what we're going to discuss today. Thank you for joining us as we discuss the grounds for divorce. Yes, it has been said that the only grounds for divorce is if the spouse of the person seeking the divorce has committed. For today's lesson, we will look at some passages of Scripture. We will look at some Old Testament passages relative to our topic and some New Testament passages relative to our topic. In the Old Testament, we will be looking at, or we may visit, Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 13 through 21, Deuteronomy 17, 6, Deuteronomy 24, verse 1 through 5, and then in the New Testament, we're going to go to adultery. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 19, starting with verse number 1 down through verse number 6, I believe, is where we're going to go to. So we thank you very much for joining us, and today we're going to explain the phrase, if a saving for the cause of fornication, if a man divorces his wife saving for the cause of fornication, then he has committed adultery, and he causes the woman that he has divorced to commit adultery. Thank you very much. All right. So now let us take a look at the word of the Lord, and we'll go directly to Matthew chapter 19. And what we're doing is we're discussing the theory that the only grounds for divorce is adultery, fornication, where in the marriage, one of the parties has committed adultery or fornication, the husband or the wife. Fornication here is used by Jesus, and but fornication here is always taken to be adultery. But in the case of the scripture here, it could be adultery, and it could be fornication, in other words, premarital sex. All right, so let us read in Matthew chapter 19. It says, "And it came to pass that when Jesus had finished these things, he departed from Galilee and came into the coast of Judea beyond the Jordan. And great multitudes followed him, and he healed them there. Then the Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying unto him, Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? And he answered and said unto them, Have ye not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female? And said, For this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. And they said unto him, Why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement, and to put her away? And he said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery, and whosoever marrieth her, which is put away, hath committed adultery. All right, so here the verse number 9 is the main verse that we're going to look at for this discussion. And he said unto, and I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery, and whosoever marrieth her which is put away doth commit adultery. All right. So here the scripture is speaking of the only condition that a man can just put his wife away. First of all, he comes to the Pharisees come to him trying to tempt him, trying to test him, and trying to justify their act of divorcing their wives, and many of them were divorcing their wives for frivolous causes. And so they would divorce their wives based upon the law of Moses that is found in Deuteronomy chapter 24. That law in Deuteronomy chapter 24 was for the protection of the woman, not for the man to just throw her out so he can go out and just have a great time and just get somebody else. That law was not written for the men. The men were abusing the women, but that law was a protective law for the woman. And so these men, Jesus find here in Matthew 19, they were abusing that law. It was never intended that law would give these Jewish men carte blanche a right to divorce. Let me back up here just for a minute and just say that this is addressed to the Pharisees. It's in the book of St. Matthew, so it is actually under the Old Testament law. Matthew's is a book that is actually, even though it's called New Testament, it's actually under the law. And Jesus is ministering and teaching under the law relative to the law of Moses in its relationship to the Pharisees who were abusing the law by just getting rid of their wives without a just cause. And so Jesus is talking to these Pharisees, and the answer that he's giving is to the Pharisees and to the Jewish men of the Old Testament. This is not Jesus addressing the church. It's not anything that he told the apostles that they had to teach, like when he told them about repentance or baptism. He never did say that this was what they had to teach for the New Testament church. This is not a universal law for the church as far as a rule for divorcing. That's not what this is about. It's about addressing the Pharisees on the question of whether or not, under the law of Moses, they said, is it lawful? So that is pertaining to the law of Moses. Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for any cause? And so they thought that Jesus was going to respond by saying, oh yes, it's lawful. Moses said so. And Jesus, they said here in verse number, and the Pharisees, verse number 3, and the Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying unto him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? And he answered and said unto them, have ye not read that and first of all, he told them that God it was really not, according to the plan of God, lawful for them to just put their wives away for any reason. And the only reason why they were able to do it was because of Moses, under God, it was an act and a law of mercy for the women who were being put out by these men. They were being put out for no reason. The man just found that he didn't like them and he'd get rid of them. And what Jesus was saying was that never was the original intent of God for divorce. God never said that. The only reason why divorce came in the Old Testament, that applied to the Old Testament, was because Moses, it says in verse number 8, and he said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whosoever. Now, so what Jesus tells them is that wasn't the ideal of God, for them to be divorcing their wives. Moses only did that because you all were abusing these women. Many of them would go out and they would put the women out. They would put away their wives. They would put them out. All right. Verse number 8 says, and Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning, it was not so. Moses permitted it. All right. Moses permitted them to do that, to put away their wives, because the men were so cruel. They were. In verse 7 explains the cruelty. It says, they said unto him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? To put her away, to put her out, is to put her away. But Moses commanded the bill of divorcement, which would make it legal that he would just be putting her out, because a lot of them were putting the women out and they wouldn't divorce them. And when he put the women out without divorcing, that left the woman vulnerable to be committing adultery. And that's the reason why Jesus said that whosoever put his wife away, save for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery, because she doesn't have any papers. But the divorce freed the woman that she can marry another man. All right? Let's read Deuteronomy. It'd be good for us to read Deuteronomy 24, verse 1, where that law was. And when a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it came to pass that he finds no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement, give it in her hand, and send her out of his house. Verse number 2, and when, this is Deuteronomy chapter 24, and when she is departed out of his house, she may go and marry another. She may go and be another man's wife. All right. So if the man don't like her for any reason in the Old Testament, because of the abuse of not liking a woman and sending her out of his house without papers, she's a woman wandering around out there, no papers, and she can't marry anybody else. She can't court anybody else, because she belongs to him, because she has no divorce. She belongs to that man. But what Moses said, that is an abusive situation. If you put them out for no cause, then give them a bill of divorcement. Give them a letter, a certificate of divorce. This is how divorces got started. It was for the protection of the women who were abused, not for a man to use it to go out and put. And so if the word went out, let's say the word went out over the years and over time, all the men found out that Moses said, you can divorce your wife. You can put her out. You can put her away from you. All you got to do is give her a bill of divorcement and tell her to hit the road. And so if they gave her a bill of divorcement and hit the road, then all of the money that a diary that her father gave in inheritance, he can keep all of that. He can keep all of that, but yet she has to be out on the wandering around poor without money and everything like that because he got everything that belonged to her. Moses says that's cruel. Give her a bill of divorcement, free her, give her back her money, or give her father the money you got from him, and let the woman go so she can marry somebody else. And so this is for the protection of the woman. But what happened in the case of these Pharisees over time is they started using that as a loophole in the law to just walk their wives to the door, then give them a bill of divorcement and keep their money and to just get rid of them. And this became a big racket in the day in which Jesus told this. And they were just doing it left and right. And they said, well, Moses said we can do it. But they did not really go back to the real sense of that law and the purpose of that law. The purpose of that law was for the protection of the woman, not so that the man could be able to just divorce it, all he wanted to do and just go get somebody else. So when Jesus finds them, he comes and he says, okay, well, since that's the racket that you're involved in, you're in that racket of putting the wife out. Then therefore you are. It doesn't work. Moses' law didn't mean that. This is what Jesus is trying to say. It didn't mean that. It is not supposed to be that a man is supposed to divorce his wife for any cause. A marriage is supposed to be held together. The husband and wife are supposed to be one. So you're actually abusing Moses' law, and you're abusing it, and you're putting them out for any reason that you want to, and you've actually ruined the law. You're hypocrites. So Jesus comes and tells them, remember now, this is in the Old Testament. Now, the Matthew is a gospel, but it's recording the teachings of Jesus under the Old Testament to the Pharisees. Matthew is a Jewish-oriented book. It is one of the most Jewish-oriented books that there is. But you cannot interpret the scripture without looking at the Jewish meaning of what Jesus is saying. And then the next thing you have to understand is that this is not applicable to the New Testament. This is not universal law. This is a law under the Old Testament under Moses dealing with whether or not a man can put away his wife for any cause. And so here we have it. That now Jesus says, he says, from the beginning was not so. Then he says, verse number 9, and I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery, and whoso marrieth her which is put away, doth commit adultery. Let us explain that. So now Jesus say, excepting for the cause of fornication. That's what our lesson is supposed to be, is explaining that. Except for the cause of fornication. So is Jesus saying here that for all marriages everywhere, that the only way that a person can get divorced is through fornication? No, it's not. That's not what Jesus is saying here. What he's saying to the Pharisees is that the only way you all could have legally divorced your wives is according to the law of Moses described in Deuteronomy 22. In Deuteronomy 22, verses number 13 through 21. It is a law that states that if a woman is found in adultery, she's found to be an adulteress, then she could be taken out to the city, and the men of the city can come out there and stone her to death. That was what was happening. That law also is in Deuteronomy 17:6. And that was what was happening to the woman caught in adultery, where the men were coming out to the stone her to death. That was all under the law. There had to be 2 or 3 witnesses stating that she was an adulterer, and that she was an adulterer, and so she would have to be stoned to death. So the consequences for a woman being caught in adultery or fornication was death. Now, if you notice, if you read the Old Testament, there was nothing said about a man whether or not he was sleeping around with women, because the laws of fornication here are a reference only to the woman. In other words, the woman has had the kind of a sexual activity that causes her to be worthy of being taken out of a man's house and sent away, divorced her. Now, he could not even divorce this woman. Let me say this to you. This was not even grounds for divorce. Let me explain this very carefully. Jesus is not teaching that fornication is the grounds that a woman can be divorced. That's not even taught here. What you have to understand is the Old Testament law that Jesus is basing this upon. He's basing it on the Deuteronomy law, which is found in Deuteronomy 22, 13 through 21. What would happen to that woman if the woman was found in adultery? The woman would be taken out to the city, and she would be stoned to death. She'd be stoned to death by the men of the city. That was the consequences of adultery, not her being divorced. If a woman was found in adultery in that day that Jesus spoke about, and according to that law that Moses spoke, that would be a blessing for that woman to get divorced. That would be a blessing because she would be dead. The penalty for a woman caught in adultery was to be stoned to death. And so that's why Jesus says, saving for the cause of fornication. Not so much the man committing fornication, but the woman in this case, if she was found to be committed fornication. Now, there was 2 situations, and probably the first situation I'm going to cause would be the one where the woman was found to have committed a fornication or adultery. Okay, and the first situation, which is found in Deuteronomy 22, is where a man got a wife, and he paid the father for the wife, like I think it was Jacob who had to work to get these wives, and so he worked to pay it off. And he pays the father to get a wife. Many times in that instance, the husband never even met the wife. He never had time to spend with her. So he doesn't know her personally or physically. But he takes the father's word that the woman is a virgin. And then when he takes the father's word that the woman is a virgin, then he will work for the woman, and he wants her. Sometimes he didn't even do what they call a proposal to her. It was like his father wanted him to have her, that kind of. It was customary for them not to come in contact at all before marriage, but yet the man would work for her, or he would pay the father for her. And the father was supposed to assure the man that his daughter was a virgin. So in the case where a man takes the woman and he marries her, and then on his wedding night, or some kind of a way, whether or not it's on the wedding night or whether or not it was through conversation, he finds out that the woman was not a virgin, but she actually committed fornication. In other words, premarital sex. In this case, it would be premarital sex. So the word fornication is applicable for this, and the word adultery is applicable also. And so she was involved in premarital sex with someone, and she's no longer a virgin. So in that instance where she committed fornication, premarital sex, then she is no longer a virgin. Not only is she no longer a virgin, but according to the law of Moses, the man that she had committed the fornication with, it was designated to marry her, and he could never divorce her. So here we have this woman who she has lost her virginity. She's supposed to be with the man who has broken her virginity, and according to the law, if that man was caught, he was supposed to marry her. So in all actuality, sexually and physically, she belongs to another man, whether he married her or not. So that when she now marries this man who paid for her, she has already committed adultery against the one that she had sex with before marriage. So here she is. And when the man finds that this woman, the man who marries her, finds that this woman is not a virgin, he's upset. He wants his money back. He is mad at the father because the father, he found out that the father played a trick on him and his wife was not a virgin. She committed fornication and she was worthy to be put to death. And that's what you get from a fornication that Jesus referred to in Matthew 19, is the death of the woman because of the fornication. And the death of the woman obviously would loose the man from the marriage. And so, in other words, Jesus is saying the only way you can get out of that marriage legally is that the woman has committed fornication and that she is going to be stoned. She's not going to be there anymore. And so Jesus says that. And so this entire process of proving that this woman was unclean was an entire legal process that they had to go to prove it. And if the woman was found to be unclean, then she could be stoned to death, and the man would be out of the marriage. There would not be a divorce. The point I'm trying to make is that in the precise context of what Jesus said, there would not be a divorce for fornication. So even in this, the enlightenment to us is that Jesus is not even teaching that fornication is a grounds for divorce at all. You don't get a divorce. First of all, the man wasn't the one being questioned about whether or not he committed fornication. It was the woman. So we don't even look at the man in this case. When we start talking about who committed the fornication, we look at the woman in this case. And then the woman does not get the right to divorce. She actually gets stoned to death. So in this case and in this scenario, fornication is not the grounds for divorce. Fornication in this case is the ground for the woman to be killed and for her to be stoned to death. And so that's what the grounds for the woman to be stoned to death. But what it would be is that the man would be freed from the woman at that point. He would need a divorce. So what I'm trying to show you is that in the actual inside of the passage, fornication is nowhere the grounds for divorce. Adultery is never the ground for divorce because the woman is put to death. She is not divorced. She's put to death. And the man is not divorcing the woman. He is turning in for her to be killed. So he can get out of the marriage by proof that the woman was unclean. And so, but the Pharisees weren't doing all of that. They were just putting them out. They're putting them out for any reason they wanted to. And Jesus was trying to let them know that the real heart of Moses' law was to protect the woman, and they were not supposed to be abusing that law by divorcing their wives. Now we read the passage again. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and marry another, committeth adultery, and whosoever marrieth her, which is put away, doth commit adultery. So then, if you put away your wife, he's telling these Pharisees, and she was not found to be unclean as far as committing fornication, and you just don't like her, and what I'm going to tell you, the truth of the matter, I'm going to go above what Moses said, and he's talking to these Old Testament Pharisees. I'm going to say to you, I'm going to go back to what it was in the beginning, that a man is not supposed to separate from his wife, not divorce his wife, as Jesus talked about in verse 4 and 5. I'm going to go directly to the law, and I'm going to cut through it, what Moses said and all the confusion you have about it, to tell you that if you're doing that, and the woman is not committed fornication, she is not found to be unclean, her father didn't trick her when you married her, then if you put her away and you marry somebody else, you are committed adultery, and the woman that you the one that she marries, they'll be committing adultery too, because she still belongs to you, and she'll be committing adultery because she is committing adultery to her husband. In other words, it's not legal for you to divorce your wives without there being a just cause for it, and especially in this case, and Jesus made it clear that it had to be the fact that the woman had committed fornication either before marriage or maybe in some cases even after the marriage, but she would have to have committed fornication, and she would not be sent to marry someone else. She would be stoned to death. Thank you very much for listening. This is discussing the point that fornication, adultery is the only grounds for divorce. And so then what we're concluding here is that fornication is not the grounds for divorce, and is not the only ground, but it's not a ground for divorce. In this case, fornication was the ground for adultery, was the grounds for being stoned to death. And if the woman is stoned to death, then the man is free to go. And but it has to be that so therefore the grounds for divorce in this case were actually protective of the woman, and the grounds for divorce was the mental cruelty of the men, that Moses allowed a bill of divorcement to get the woman out of trouble. It was not any rights to the man or to be abusive of the law. So the only grounds for divorce here are discussed is the cruelty of the man, and Moses giving them a bill of divorcement, as we discussed in Deuteronomy chapter 24. And so that was only an addendum to the law, and it was most certainly an infraction away from the original ideal of marriage forever. Now, so that sometimes in the New Testament, and we have to realize, first of all, let me back up here. This is Old Testament passage pertaining to the Pharisees. It is not New Testament law. It is not taught by Paul in the New Testament. It is an Old Testament passage pertaining to under what conditions can a man divorce his wife in the Old Testament. And it was only because Moses gave a bill of divorcement. Fornication was not a consideration. The man committing fornication is not a consideration in this. We have to put it in the context. It was a woman who may have committed fornication, and the order for that was that she be stoned to death, not divorced. So divorce is not a grounds, fornication is not a ground for divorce. It's not the only one, it is not one. And so, but anyway, divorces are caused by different things, and we'll discuss that in a different lesson. As we conclude this lesson, where Jesus said, "And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery, and whosoever committeth or marrieth her, which is put away, doth commit adultery." God bless you and keep you is my prayers. And may the Lord bless you till our next lesson on marriage and divorce. God bless you.